Hi everyone, welcome to the third webinar. I'm Gautam. As I said in the earlier two ones, we are doing one webinar a week. Now we were earlier planning to do one every month, but really overwhelmed, as I said, with the response that we're getting from recruiting firms. So welcome to this third edition of recruiting masterclass with me. So this one is slightly different from the rest is because I have not picked any topic. Normally we pick a topic for a webinar, but this time around I have not picked a topic. The topic has been suggested by people who attended the last two webinars. In fact, the first one. So I've got a list of questions from people who attended the first webinar, and some of them I couldn't answer fully because the time was short. And this third webinar that we're doing is basically going to be focused on answering those questions. So this is only going to be focused on those. I think I have 6 questions which I'm going to answer during the course of the next 30 minutes. As you all know, at least the guys who have been attending the earlier webinars, all our masterclasses, recruiting masterclasses are going to be for 30 minutes each. So this one is going to be no different, and they're all going to be starting at 4. Normally we do it every Tuesday, but today is a Wednesday, and we have done this on as a special case because we wanted to take on those questions. So I'm going to spend the next approximately 28 minutes answering these 6 questions that I have got from people who attended the earlier webinars. And as I said last time, we have not enabled the live chat feature on this webinar because, again, as I said, we find that live chat affects the flow, and so we're not going to be doing live chats at the moment. So you will not be able to ask me any question as I'm speaking. So we'll just restrict it to the questions that have already been asked, and I'm assuming that you will find this useful, although you may not have asked it yourself, but these have been asked by people who are peers of yours. That means they have been running their own recruiting business out of India. And I'm sure that most of the topics or most of the concerns should be common. So let me begin with so as I said, I have a list of 6 which I'm going to address. Let me begin with one question which I think is a matter of great concern to almost every single person running a recruiting firm in this country, and it was great concern to me also when I was running a recruiting firm about 8-9 years ago, and I see that concern has not changed. And the question is that how do we handle the fact that large companies have started insourcing their requirement? That means they are building recruiting teams, internal recruiting teams, right? And therefore give all their requirements to the internal team and don't outsource it to recruiting firms. That's one. And the second is obviously the whole attempt is to drive down rates, right? So the large, especially the end clients who are hiring in hundreds and thousands, obviously have this particular advantage because they are able to drive the rates down. So there is a double whammy, right? So you're building your own recruiting team, which is an internal recruiting team, and you're also driving down rates. So I've begun with this question because I think it's a very relevant question. I think it is probably affecting close to 50-60% of the recruiting firms operating out of this country, especially the guys who are doing IT or who are doing BPO or ITES, because that's really where the volume, even in financial services, for example, that's really where the volume hiring happens. So there are 2 parts to this. I think first part is rates. I think rates have been artificially inflated. And I know this is not going to sound good to a lot of you. I think placing a guy with 2 years, 3 years, 4 years experience and having to pay 1 or 1.5 months salary for it, that's not the normal. So please understand that no, for 1 minute, I'm not suggesting that the business is becoming unprofitable. So don't get me wrong. The business is profitable and it will still be profitable even at lower rates. But all I'm trying to tell you is that the rate was due to market inefficiencies. right? It was not normal, right? So expecting to make fees per candidate, which is a month or 40 days of salary, which is typically what the rates were for the junior level candidates. I think that is not the right expectation. So if you are governing your business based on those kind of rates, then it's incorrect, because that is not sustainable, right? So remember, the rates are going to come down, right? It's market reality, and that is a fact. That is not going to change. So you have to govern your business accordingly, and therefore the game is shifting from just sending out CVs to productivity per employee. So that's going to be the key. Rates will come down, right? So the way to counter it is not by crying about it, because you have to accept it, and it's going to come down even further, right? Mass hiring is going to be always on low rates, right? So if you are doing mass hiring, if that is your main business focus, please understand that the rates of 30 days, 40 days salary are not sustainable, and even if some companies are doing it, they will also change, and I think most have already changed. So that is a feature of this business. Yes, you may hear stories from maybe some of your peers or some of the older guys doing recruiting that in my days it used to be 40 days salary or 60 days salary. Well, maybe it was, but you know what? That is not efficient, right? And that is not sustainable, right? That's an era gone by, and the current era is not that one should complain about it, because that is the reality, right? The current era is the reality, and this is the way it's going to be. So rates are going to come down. You need to set up your business in such a fashion that you are able to generate margins for yourself with the low rates. Therefore, employee productivity, as I said earlier, is going to be the key. And employee productivity, let me tell you, is very low for most recruiting firms, which is why they have this problem, right? If your employee productivity is at a regular level, like even if it's like 3 times the salary of a person, you should not have this problem at all, and that should be typically your rule of thumb, right? If you're doing 3x, because your 1x is salary, like is 1/3 salary, 1/3 is your loaded cost, that is seat cost, and 1/3 is your margin. I think that's really the way a service business, like a recruiting business, should work. And believe me, even with lower rates, that is possible, right? So don't complain about rates. Please look at your backend process and govern your productivity in such a manner that you're able to generate 3x, right, from your employees. And believe me, it's possible. Now, how you want to set it up in terms of what kind of salaries you're paying and all, I'm not going to get into that, because that's going to get into too much of detail. But at an overall level, 3x is really what you should gun for, and at 3x you will be profitable. In fact, you will be profitable to a large extent, even in mass hiring, right? When it comes to insourcing, yes, that is a problem. It's a problem in the sense that, see, for companies, it is going to be determined by cost per hire, right? So unless, and that again goes back to the rate discussion that we were having 2 minutes ago. So unless you are able to show a company that it doesn't make sense for them to insource, because you are able to deliver a candidate at a lower cost than what they would do it if they were to do it themselves. Again, why would they want to insource? They are wanting to insource because in their mind, they believe that if I use an external vendor, I end up paying 2 times or 3 times more than what I would pay if I do this internally, in-house, right? So that's really the key. So the thought process of insourcing is coming because of the fact that they perceive using external vendors for mass hiring as expensive, right? Now, this perception is correct, and because the kind of money that they were paying for mass hiring was very high, which is why the rates are coming down. So believe me, rates coming down is not a bad thing, because it will lead to more outsourcing, right? So look at it from that perspective. If there is a company which is paying you high rates, you may be feeling good for the next 6 months or 12 months, but believe me, that company will start insourcing most of their recs, because their CFO, whenever the CFO has the time to look at the manpower bill, he's going to tell the head of HR or the head of recruiting, however they are structured, boss, why are we paying X amount of rupees for hiring? Why can't we hire 10 people or 5 people internally and get it done ourselves? And beyond the point, that is going to be difficult for the recruiting head or the HR head to answer, right? So low rates are not bad because low rates will ensure that you get business from this client. High rates, on the other hand, are risky because you may believe that you're getting high rates, but believe me, that is the client who is most likely going to insource. And therefore, your business will get cut, right? And you will end up competing with the internal team, which is what is happening with a lot of mass hiring requirements, right? That's the biggest complaint which most recruiting firms have, that I end up competing with, my customer, right? The guy at the other end who's the HR person. And that's not a battle I can win. And think about it. That battle has happened because your rates are high, right? And it will continue to happen as long as the company doesn't see the rate equalization. That means they don't see the benefit, right, in being able to outsource the requirement, right? I know I'm taking a slightly contrarian position, but please understand that high rates are not sustainable in mass hiring. And whoever is paying you high rates will enforce the requirements. So be on guard. That is going to happen, right? If it has not already happened. So low rates may appear bad, but they are more sustainable. And therefore, you need to build your back-end business model with low rates in mind. And low rates could be as low as 5% or 5.5% of salary. But I think that's really where the business starts making sense, even for the company. Right, at 5.5%, I don't think they will be inclined to insource, because at that kind of rate, they'll probably, it will not make too much of economic sense to bring the business in. But if the rates are going to be 8.5, 7.5, 9.5, 10.5, you will have an issue, and that's just the way business is, right? The business will get insourced the higher the rate, right? So that's the reality. So please look at your productivity. Please look at how you can build backend systems which will still make money for you despite the 5.5 or 6.5% or even lower, which you can get, because recruiting still remains a hugely profitable business even at those numbers, right? It's just that you need to relook at your costs. Right, you need to relook your productivity, and more than cost, I think you need to relook at your productivity, and therefore maybe at the quality of talent that you hire. Again, we're not getting into that discussion because that's a separate area, and we'll probably tackle it at some later stage. But that's the message that I wanted to convey. So I've taken a bit of time on this question because I think it's something which is bothering a lot of you. I've got a lot of people asking me the same question again as to how do we, overcome this huge problem of large companies insourcing their requirements and dropping the rates. Okay, so that's one. There's another question. I will just pick it up quickly. Is in terms of what is the advice on starting a recruiting business in the US or India. I won't talk about the US right now. It's a different market, and we'll come to it later. Let's look at India, because that is, I think, more relevant for the folks who are on this masterclass. I think it's a great time to start a recruiting business. Right, and I know it sounds again very strange because I've just said that the rates may come down. Believe me, recruiting, despite whatever you hear of job boards, analytics, recruiters' jobs will get redundant. Companies will directly connect with candidates. Boss, I have been hearing this for the last 20 years, right? Ever since job boards came in the late 90s. I mean, I remember in 99, 98, 99. I think that's when at least the first job boards came to India. We used to have this huge spiel of, this is the end of recruiting firms. Recruiting will change, right? Nothing like that happened. In fact, recruiting firms use job boards, right? And even today, the biggest consumers of job boards are recruiting firms, right? I mean, if you look at the kind of money, just look at LinkedIn, for example. I mean, who do you think is paying LinkedIn? It's not corporates, it's recruiting firms, right? So these are just tools. Right? Do not be afraid of technology. I think you need to embrace technology, and there will be more and more technology tools, right? I mean, job boards, social media, analytics. I think there's a lot of investments which have happened in connecting, narrowing the funnel, connecting candidates to relevant jobs, and all those things will keep happening. There's artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. Please understand, all these are just tools. They are productivity tools, which you should embrace, right? Because they will ensure profitability of your business. Do not be scared of them. Do not hear people and do not get petrified with people who are predicting the doomsday scenario for recruiting firms. It is not going to happen, at least not in our lifetime. It's difficult to predict for the next 50, 100 years, but believe me, this is not going to happen, because the human connect in the recruiting business will still remain with the recruiting firm, which is the last mile connectivity of the firm talking to the candidate, and that is not going to get replaced by a job board, right? So do not get scared with digital tools. Learn how to embrace digital tools. So if you're starting a recruiting business, it's a great time to start, right? Just make sure that instead of hiring 50 people or 100 people or whatever that number is that you have in mind, you use more technology tools. So yes, you will hire people and you need to hire recruiters, but don't hire 10 to start with or 5 to start with. Hire 2 or 3 and use the additional budget to buy some technology tools, whichever tools you think are useful for you. Not only subscribing to job boards, which anyway obviously you will do, but look at productivity tools. There are several of them, right? I think the productivity tools that are available today for recruiting firms, even for corporates in the recruiting area, are multiplying every year, right? There are new tools coming into the market, new companies getting funded. Take your pick, see which ones you want to use, right? That's my message to people who are wanting to start today. It's a great time to start, as always. It's a great business to do, a lot of money to be made, but remember that technology is your friend and not your foe. And there is nothing happening to recruiting firms, right? Forget about whatever you're reading on social media, just smile about it. There's no death of recruiting firms. This is not going to happen. So companies will still hire and companies will still use firms, right? The only thing is firms will now use other stuff to weigh, sourcing of candidates will change and has already changed over the last 10, 15 years. How you source candidates, maybe how you interview candidates will change. Maybe there'll be more tools, right? How you, narrow the funnel, that is how you screen candidates, will change. All those things will change because that's productivity. That's how productivity will get enhanced. But the recruiting firm is here to stay for a while. And I'm saying for the foreseeable future, right? 20, 30 years. It's not going to happen. Yes, the business will get more competitive, which it should. The business will get the survival of the fittest. That means the guys who are really good will rise higher, and the mediocre ones will come down, which should be the case. I mean, why should mediocre firms survive? They have no reason to survive. They don't survive in other businesses. Why should they survive in recruiting? If you're a mediocre firm, then you should die, right? And that's the reality of business. That's the reality of any business. I think a lot of mediocre firms or even poor quality firms were surviving, and a lot of them will not survive, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's the fact of life. But good quality firms, efficient firms, productive firms will grow and grow further. So there is no doubt that this business is here to stay, with more competition for sure, which is a good thing, right? Nobody should be afraid of that. And with the adoption of technology as a part of working, right? So I think that's really the two things. You need more efficiency, you need higher productivity, and that is going to be linked to technology. Something which I was talking about 10 minutes ago. Don't worry about the rates, increase your productivity. And one of the ways to do that is to embrace technology. So that's my take on this, on this piece. Great time to start, as always, right? So that's the second question that I've taken. Let me take one more question, which is basically on what motivates, or how do you motivate your team? Okay, that's an interesting question. Look, money is a motivator, and let me tell you that's I'm not even taking anything away from that. Money is important, right? How much you pay recruiters is going to be important. You can't expect to be paying recruiters lower than what corporates pay them, for example. I think that's the other part, right? People who believe that corporates can afford to pay less. I can afford to pay less than corporates and still retain good talent. Why should that be the case, right? If you are, if corporates are paying more than you, then you will lose talent to corporates, right? So I think the key is not to get swayed by the fact that you need a large team. I think the key is to keep a smaller team, pay them well, adopt technology as a productivity tool, right? That I think is a far more effective way to create a motivated team, rather than to build a large team and pay everyone less. I think money is important and definitely a tool of motivation. That's one point. The second point, and I've spoken about this a bit earlier I think in the first webinar, and so I'll not stress upon it too much, but just a quick one on that is that I think the ease of decision making, or rather the involvement of a recruiter in making a decision, is very important. I think the recruiter essentially has to feel that he or she is a part of this company. And I think a lot of recruiting firm owners don't give the recruiter that kind of freedom, right? And I think that's important. I think it's important for the firm owner to understand that the recruiter needs that kind of freedom, a basic level of freedom, to make decisions for him or her to feel motivated. That's one, which is very important. The second is micromanagement. I think this very focusing on what have you done today, what have you done 1 hour ago, like a daily kind of a thing. I think that to some people it may be very insulting, right? To a guy who's or to a woman who's reasonably talented, to have somebody monitoring you on a daily basis, right, or in some cases even an hourly basis, becomes slightly painful, right? Because you're like, boss, don't you trust me? Because trust will get trust. If you don't trust your employees, they will not be motivated and they will not trust you, right? So I think trust is a two-way street, always, right? Think about it. In any relationship in life, trust will get trust, right? If you don't trust, then that person will not trust, right? And the same in an organization. If you don't trust the people who work with you, then they will not trust you. And a lot of the motivation issues get affected by trust, right? Because low trust leads to low motivation and low productivity, and then it's a vicious cycle, right? Because you believe the person needs to be monitored, so you, instead of monitoring the person less, start monitoring the person more, right? Then you're almost asking the person on an hourly basis, hey boss, what did you do between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. in the afternoon, or why didn't you send these 5 mails which I asked you to send? Like, you're talking to that person like every 45 minutes or 65 minutes. So that shows complete lack of trust, right? So just look at it logically, right? If you are not going to trust that person even to plan a day, like a work day, and monitor that person on an hourly basis, how do you expect that person to have any kind of motivation? Why would that person have motivation? Just think about it. Would you have it? Would you be motivated, working for someone if that person is going to ask you for a hourly report or like a half day report? I don't think so, right? I think it's an unreasonable expectation to have. So trust is the key for motivation. If you want a motivated workforce, learn how to trust. Because if you trust, then you will not need to monitor every hour or even every day. Yes, every week is fine. I think that everybody understands, because businesses need that kind of reviews and systems and processes. But I don't think anybody will have a problem with that. I mean, that's true in any kind of an organization. But every day, every hour, this is a very low level of trust kind of an organization, and therefore a motivation level in this company will never be high. So my take on this is that the cornerstone of motivation is trust. Money part I've already discussed. Without trust, you will not have a motivated workforce. And the way to really start this is learn how to trust, right? Begin by trusting your employees and not monitoring them on an hourly or a daily kind of basis. I think that's really what will get you to have a workforce which will want to come to work and be motivated. So that's my take on that. Okay, I'm just looking at the watch at the top. We only have 5 more minutes. I have 3 more questions. I will only take one because I don't think I'll be able to answer all 3. So The question I will take is on advertising. I think I was asked this question in the first masterclass series that we did as to what should we advertise about, and when should we advertise. I answered some of it. I will just reiterate it again. Advertising, please don't wait for you to become a large company to advertise. You need to advertise to become a large company, right? So you need to change the way you look at advertising, right? So a lot of people look at advertising saying, you know what, when I become a 10 crore company or whatever that number you have in mind, 15 crore company or 5 crore company or whatever that number is, I will then start advertising. My take is, boss, you will not become that number if you don't advertise, right? So you need to, what is advertising? You need to let people know what you stand for, right? What's so special about you? That's it, right? So you need to start at a very early stage. So when somebody asks me, when should I start? I would say anytime you can afford to spend 10 to 15,000 rupees a month. That's the kind of money you can spend, and for a 12-month period. So you should need to have about a lakh and a half. Start advertising, because you don't need more than that. With digital platforms, 10 to 15,000 rupees a month is enough to start, right? At least, if you can keep that money aside, not touch it, not expect immediate results, and not be under this, if I haven't got something in the next 2 weeks, I'll stop it. Don't do that. Keep that money aside and run it for 6 to 12 months. It takes time, and it will have an impact. So that's my first answer. Second is, what should I advertise about? We had this huge discussion in the earlier masterclass on finding a USP. It was almost a 15-20 minute discussion, so I don't think I'll be able to answer that in the next 2.5 minutes. So all I'm going to say on this is that you need to find your position and you need to take a stand, right? That's very important. Whatever stand you want to take, remember, you need to distinguish yourself from the rest, and you cannot distinguish yourself if you don't take a stand, right? The stand could be, as I said earlier, it could be on your domain, like I'm a domain specialist in X. It could be on the speed of your turnaround. It could be on the fact that you only send 3 CVs for a hire. It's on quality. There has to be some stand that you take, and you stick to that stand, right? Which is typically called in management jargon USP, or unique selling proposition, right? And that is really what you need to communicate. So you need to take a stand which defines you as a business and advertise about that, right? So that becomes that's the answer to the question, what should I advertise about? You should advertise about yourself, about your USP, and when should I advertise? You should advertise now, right? Anytime you have about 10-15,000 rupees a month, which you can afford to spare for the next 12 months, you should start advertising, because digital channels are fairly inexpensive as compared to the earlier days when you have to have larger budgets. Okay, so I'm just looking at the time, and we are more or less running out of time. So I will end this masterclass with the fact that I hope I have been able to satisfactorily answer some of these questions. We'll take some more questions maybe in a couple of weeks or so. We will run another masterclass on next Tuesday, which is going to be our 4th one. But that is going to be based on a particular topic. That won't be like a Q&A that we did right now. We will hopefully pick something which we try and get more suggestions from people. So please, if there is some topic that you would want me to talk about, please do send that on this particular Crowdcast site. We will definitely get your message, and we will try and see if we can structure a conversation around it. Thanks for listening, as always. Hope to catch up with you guys in the next masterclass. Bye-bye.